students in different stages. Probably some of you saw that you have some students that may still be in the letter name stage. All right, back there, my friend.
Kind of what has already been said, but also we like the way that this resource breaks it down and gives some just suggestions on if they're in this stage, here are some things you might see, here are some things you can do, and then there's a lot of commonalities with the research that's been done by the authors of Words Their Way.
Yes.
And so that is kind of reaffirming, because I know there are a lot of us in here that have been doing that.
Right, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. I had a conversation with someone earlier about it, and just know that, you know, Words Their Way, we've got Word Journeys with Kathy Gansky, we have, you know, all of these experts in this field. It's the same research. So what you're going to find is those that have been doing Words Their Way, you're going to see that this is all on the same rationale, it's on the same research. You'll probably even see a lot of words in these sorts that are going to be some of the same words within it. So I think you're really going to like it, plus it lays it all out. And I like what you said about when you were reading this, those specifics, you know, and explaining to you about it. I think that information is very helpful when you start thinking about students in your classroom and what they're doing. You see them doing in their writing, and know where they are. And it goes back to the stages that someone said over here with the definite stages, seeing where they are. All right? Yes?
I noticed that it says most students don't get to this last stage until 7th or 8th grade.
Sometimes.
And a lot of secondary trained teachers can teach as low as 5th grade, but aren't trained in this type of word study at all. And we just assume that by secondary level they know it all.
Yes, and you have to think about it. It is developmental, and we're still learning. I don't know about you, but when I do work study instruction, I have to go back in and study or look something up, you know, that I might not be familiar with, because in the past we've not taught word study so explicitly and understand that breakdown. It's usually, here are your words, this is what we're doing, and we really don't get into word analysis. All right, what else?
Well, it'd be nice just that it puts a common language to the different stages for all of us to use as students from year to year.
Absolutely. Anything else? Nobody else wants to share? Yes,
Reading, writing, and spelling are all connected.
Isn't that something? Absolutely. It's all connected. Reading, writing, spelling, it's all connected. And I think that's one of the things that you're going to enjoy so much with your explicit lessons, is that you're going to see how it connects it all. You know, they're not going to see so many things isolated. What I'm learning here, I'm applying it all the way across the board. How about for my smiling friends back there?
We were a group.
Okay. Any other group, any last words? Okay, then you can put those aside. As I said earlier, I really, really like this. As my friend on the back in the pretty blue scarf, you know, seeing how everything is laid out and understanding why, you know, to me, I want to know why. You know, they're doing what they're doing and how I can help them. And so I think this is really just kind of down to earth. It puts it straight out there, and you probably even came up with students' names in your heads that certain ones of these stages, you know, they fit in. Okay? All right, let's moving right along. All right. This is what you're going to see. In 3rd and 4th grade teachers, you're going to be covering skills in the syllable juncture stage. And there is a scope and sequence within your handbook that's inside your box. And we'll look at that in just a minute. And here are the skills within that stage that you'll be looking at. Now, third grade, you will be at the beginning of the stage and working with the different skills. And as those skills progressively get more difficult, fourth grade follows in, but there is some lap over. Okay, so there is some lap over there. So makes it easier with the students. And then fifth and sixth grade, I know we got fifth, sixth, and seventh in here. Our fifth and sixth grade boxes, so to speak, you're in the derivational constancy stage, and those are the specific skills that are within, that are going to be covered. But they're broken down. In fact, how about, go ahead and open up your box and find your handbook. It may not be easily seen, but it's colorful.
That is a fourth grade one I can learn.
It's like, whoa,
Yeah, I looked on the back cover here, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, 4 is kid 2, 3 is 1.
yes, that's an overview. It's your overview book.
No, I am.
That's it.
I am. Yep, nope, I am.
Can I see yours for a minute? Thank you. Teachers, it's the overview booklet, but it may be a different color. If you're third grade, it's going to be purple. Fourth grade, yours is blue. Fifth is orange, and sixth is red. The handbook. It's you will see a red. Teachers, also go ahead and pull out a unit. Just pull out one. Don't open up the bag, please, but pull out a unit. We'll need it just a little bit. Oh, they've got two
That was the first one.
Alright, teachers, I think most of you have pulled. You should have your overview book, and if you just pulled out one of the bags, which is a unit, that's a week's instruction. Now, we won't open up that unit yet, but I want you to have your overview book so that I can tell you what's in there, and you'll get into it a little deeper in a little while. But what you'll find when you open it up, many of you are talking about words their way, you're talking about the research. You're going to find inside your overview book, if this is something you wanted to look at, it's going to tell you what the research is and how word study vocabulary fits into that, okay, how that's supported. So that's nice to know if you want to take some time to do that. I know you have a lot of leisure time on your hands. Actually, in mine, I believe it's page 5. It starts looking at the research behind it, okay? So if you wanted to look at that, it's there. If you want to just mark it with a Post-it, that's fine. And it continues. It continues over the next few pages. What I wanted you to see is that if you turn a few pages more, I think around page 18, that's going to be a scope and sequence. It will be somewhere around there. Okay? So these are the particular skills that will be taught through the units in your kit. Okay? So just to let you know. Now behind that, teachers, there are a bunch of assessments behind it of which you don't need to worry about. You are adopting this as part of your core instruction. So you're going to be starting with the first unit in the box and systematically working your way forward. And I think from that word study stages, the spelling stages you looked at, you can see how that works now. Because you have so many skills that kids learn in the letter name stage. And then there are certain skills that they learn within Word. And skills with syllable juncture, and then of course skills with derivational constancy. So you're going to have assessment tools behind it. Some of them are for placement You won't need to do that because it is your core instruction. Everybody will be receiving that. I think we need to remember this. With Common Core, state, district levels, there are certain standards and expectations that are for each of our grade levels. Okay, so everybody has to be taught that core of instruction. Now, I realize that you have students, just like I had students, at all different places. But what I had to do for that, and what you will probably do for that, is you have to give everybody the core instruction, those skills and standards, expectations for everyone. And then there are some activities that are embedded within your lessons that can be used for individuals or for small groups. For that, if they are just entirely way low in the, if they're like in letter name stage or whatever, we know that with working with them, whatever skills they need, you may have to do that like during intervention time. If you have an intervention person who does some of that, we'll work with them. Or I had to do some of my own small group intervention stuff. I would address it there. I usually did it right before guided reading. I would do a little word study or word work with them, depending on where they were, and then go right into my guided reading with my level text. So I did a lot of it that way, and then my intervention teacher that pulled some of my students or pushed in would work with them where the gaps are. Basically, teachers, pretend with me that I have a clothesline. It starts here on this wall, and it goes all the way over to that one. And just a minute ago, I said, remember the stages. You've got your emergent, of course, but letter name with the word, syllable, juncture, and derivational constancy. Before kids got to you, there's been really no systematic instructional research-based program anywhere, okay? So what did we do? Well, whatever our reading series was or whatever we were doing, it has these skills, so that's what we're going to concentrate on this week. This is what we're working on in spelling because it goes really well with the patterns and things I see in the story. So on my continuum or my clothesline, everything's in order. I might be teaching this skill over here. Next week, I'm doing a different story, and I have some different words. They really lend themselves to this particular skill I'm teaching. Well, guess what? It might be over here, on my continuum. The following week, I might be here. The next week after that, I might be here. So by the time kids get to you, what do we have? Gaps. We have gaps in instruction. So that's where the struggle is. So within your small group of working with some students or intervention, then that's where they'll try to fill in those gaps, okay? And you do have some support throughout your lessons for individuals or small groups. They're within margins, and we'll look at each of those in a little bit so you'll know exactly what's there, okay? But I just wanted you to see that. I wanted to point out your scope and sequence, if you want to mark that with a Post-it, just so you'll have it. So that if you refer to it, I know you probably just pulled out a unit a few minutes ago out of your book or out of your box. But if there's something specific that you would like to see, you might go back in and pull one of these instead. But we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Back with your other students, you don't need a placement test, but there are also some other assessments if it was to be used by, you if you wanted, but to see where the gaps are with the students, for those few or whatever, you could use some of these assessments. But you're not going to need the placement because you are giving them core instruction, and that's what you have, okay? All right, now this belongs to you, right? Okay, you're welcome. Now hold on to that. We'll get to it. This is what you have, okay? We're going to be looking at our word study and vocabulary skill bags. Each bag is a week, so it's like, it's in the bag. Don't you like that? It's in the bag. Everything you need to teach your lesson is in the bag. And I know as a teacher that is a wonderful thing. All right, so what do they provide? This is what you need to know. They provide research-based effective practices. They provide explicit and systematic instruction, which is extremely important. It's systematic in the skills when they're taught. And it's very explicit in language and in modeling, okay? And by the way, there are also, I was telling you about some different activities that were embedded to give more scaffolding and support. You have the same thing with like your English language learners. There are tips in there for those students as well. You will be focusing on syllable juncture and derivational constancy stages. And the lessons are designed to be 20 to 30 minutes. And you can do it. In my particular classroom, and then in my teachers, that when I was a coach and reading specialist, we only had 20 minutes within the schedule to give it, but it's extremely important for that explicit instruction. So that's the way your lessons were created and crafted, to help you as a teacher, about 20-minute lessons or so. All right, these are going to be your components. Now, if you would like to take your bag and pull everything out, just put it in a little stack. Don't go crazy on me yet. Just put it in a little stack. All right. Teachers, you've already seen your overview assessment handbook. And you saw that on that inside front cover, you had a CD. So if you wanted to click and print any assessment out of that booklet, you have it, okay? Just wanting you to know that that's one of your components. Now what we really want to see is we have our lesson. Let's look at our week, our unit. Go ahead and pull your unit out. It looks like that on the front. It just might be a different color. Okay, get mine. Okay, now, what you see on the front is basically the objectives that you're going to be accomplishing for that particular day. Also, you see some visuals of some black line masters, like the words that you're going to do with your word sort, or your vocabulary sentences, or whatever it is. Now, don't you just love programs that say get the so-and-so, but you don't know what the so-and-so looks like? Well, you know what the so-and-so looks like, okay? So you have the visual, so that's nice, okay? So you have that lined out through day 5. Yes, ma'am?
These are on the CD and
These particular ones are actually going to be online.
Oh,
We're going to get to that too.
sorry.
Later. All right, so here, these are your week's worth of objectives here. Now, if you open it up, you can see how it's designed. It is designed by days. So if you open it up, you see day 1. Now, you have your instruction that fits it, but you see you also have margins that have specific things in there. They're going to be teacher tips. There will be suggestions for English language learners. There might be a homeschool connection on there. You know, we do have parents that like to help kids with their spelling, just like in that article you read first thing, this morning. Well, it's going to look different. But there are some homeschool connections where they can sort with their kids and things like that. You have those available, and it will tell you where those are. Now, you have that day 1. Everything begins with a review. So it's a review of skill you've recently or prior taught, okay, to this. So you have that. Then if you will see right here on your spelling words, these spelling words are this is the only place where you're going to see the words listed, okay? And how many of them are there, teachers? Okay. Now, so what you see is that they have 8 focus words. Now, your kids are going to be seeing many words throughout the week that follow that same pattern of study. I mean, the more they see, more they're exposed to, the better. And they're going to be looking at 40 plus words a week, just sorting and looking and making meaning from them. But that's where you have your list of focused ones, okay? If you will, it even gives you assessment tips. I don't know if I mentioned that in the margin. Just kind of progress monitoring to see how people are doing. I want you to go to day 2. So we have a review of what we worked on, and then we start having some sorts. Teachers, if you look in the margin, you'll see that these sorts are there for you already. You don't have to take a minute to the side and try to sort those words that they have. You already have the sorts right there in front of you, so you don't, that's one less thing that you have to do, another minute for you. But you'll see that's there. Also with mine, I also see that on my particular one, I have a homeschool connection and supporting L's in my column here. So you're going to see lots in there. On day 3, you'll see another sort. Now the sorts are not going to be the same each day, and even each week you might not have the same kind of sort. Like if it was a meaning sort, you may not have that on day 3. You know, you may have other types of sorts or at a different place. But you have those. Day 4, if you can turn to day 4, you have really worked on mini sorts. That's the main vehicle right now for teaching word study and vocabulary is going to be for your sorts. Okay, that's your main vehicle. However, on day 4, you also have a word hunt, so that now students have a connected text, so to speak, where they can go with the passage and they can actually hunt for words of that particular pattern or whatever. And have fun with that. You also have spelling dictation that day and practice, kind of a review after you've done the word hunt of sorts. Then on day 5 is your assessment day. And you can also, it's right here in the middle. You have the quick check assessment. I want you to just look at the very back of your unit, teacher guide. This is the quick check assessment. Now on day 5, it pretty much has a spelling assessment that's like the traditional one, which you could do with the focus, you know, words. But underneath that, you have the quick check. So now that breaks it down so that, oh, I know my kids have not been memorizing the words because now they have to sort these, they have to fill in words for vocabulary, they have to do a little bit more. But that's where you have your quick check. It's going to be on the back. And then you will also see that you have suggestions for independent practice. Usually that's on day 5, and you can even do small group with that. Okay? All right, now that's a very quick glance, and you'll have some time to look at that a little bit later, but I wanted us to just kind of go through it quickly. Let's look at the other piece. I want you to pull out your anchor chart. Your anchor chart is this beautiful anchor poster, which I love. This can stay up the entire week that you're working with the unit. If you wanted to keep it up longer than a week, you could. That's up to you, but just know that you have an anchor poster for every unit. And I love it because it gives the examples. It's very easy for the kids to understand. If they need to refer back to that chart, it's right there, okay? You'll have it right on the wall. They can look up there for examples. Oh, yes, that word. Now I know about that one. So this is really nice. I'm about to show you a smaller version of this. So hold on, but this, you'll have one for every unit. You keep it up however long you want to, or take it down on Friday when you're finished. That's up to you. But these are nice. All right, we can put that down. The next thing I want you to pick up is your Blackline Master booklet. Basically, if you need 4 sets. You have sets, so many sets of sorts that are already done for you, and we'll look at those. But let's say that you have so many particular kids, so many kids in your room, so you need to make a couple of extra sorts because you want them working in pairs, or or however many you have, 3s. Well, anything you need extra of, it's right here. It's all right here. If you will open that Blackline Master up, this nice little anchor poster or anchor chart, now you have an 8.5 by 11 of it. And I don't know if you've been using Word study notebooks in your classroom, but what I like to do is I like to give everybody one of these and let them put it in their notebook so that as they're doing sorts and recording and doing those sorts in there, that they also have their anchor to go back to or to refer to if needed. And so that's nice. And you have one for every unit. They can just go back, at any point in time. So I like that. The next thing you see, teachers, is that your category cards. Now, you're going to be different types of sorts. So you're not going to need every one of these category headings each day. You're going to be using, whatever sort you're doing, then you'll have your category heading to do it. Now, if you will turn the page, you'll start seeing your words. Here is one of your sorts. Now, you can see that on your sorts, it does have a number underneath it. That this is for, sort where you're doing 3 here. Now, I don't think that you'll have 2 of these out to where they fall out on the floor, but let's just say you do. There are different numbers because this is for one sort. Then you would use this group of words for another sort. Well, let's say for some reason the kids had both of them out, they weren't connected, and we have a pile on the floor. It's easy to sort those back to whatever group they are because they have the number underneath the word. Okay? All right. And then you have about 3 sorts. So you'll see you have 3 different ones. Now, I want you on the next page to look at the bottom, because at the bottom, that tells you what Blackline Master number, or if it's a homeschool connection. Here it says take-home activity. So this is, mine is sorting for vowel sounds, and it has a word bank. So see, this is something I could send home with my students that they can do with their parents or sibling or whatever, so that they still would have, parents would still have that attachment to spelling, but have it in the manner in which they're learning. Not memorization, but working and making meaning of them, okay? So if you turn the page, you'll see it says classroom activity or take-home activity. There will be some with vocabulary where you choose the correct vocabulary word to go into. And then, if you will turn another page, this is the passage for your word hunt. Now, in your lesson, it showed you on day 4 what that looks like. And here it is right here. So, I like that because you've got the right thing. But there's the word hunt passage. Now, here's the cool thing, teachers. These are different genres. I mean, you have everything. You have letters, you have journals, you have recipes, you have all kinds of things. Nonfiction, other types of areas of text that they're going to be reading. So it's going to be nice, and they're interesting. You're going to see fiction and nonfiction, but probably mostly nonfiction. We tend to be a nonfiction focused company, which is good, especially where we are, but you'll have them both. Then, teachers, you have something that on day 4 you're also working with spelling dictation and stuff. Listen, if you're like me, you don't need this copied for all your kids. They can do that in their word study notebook. Here are the review words, here are my new words, here are my sentences, that kind of thing. But it's in there because, hey, you never know. Some teachers like it done just like this for them, and so we try to take care of the masses. All right, but you have that. All right, and then the last thing is also on day 4, you have like a peer, a spelling peer check. So where they have a first try at the word, and then they get a second one if they need, and so forth. Many of you have done activities like this with your kids and have been for a while. But it's all right there. Again, this could be on regular loose leaf notebook paper or their spelling, notebook, word study notebook or whatever. But anything you need extra of, this is what you need to remember. Anything you need extra of, you have it here, okay? And I just definitely, because of just my feelings, don't forget that you have the anchor chart here, because I did like to have that with my word study notebook. Okay, so just remember that's in there. All right, you can put those down.
Kimberly,
Uh-huh,
I have a question about this.
absolutely.
In our thing, I'm not sure I'm getting how this all works, but there were 8 words,
Yes.
and then on here there's 9.
That is like for, like an extra if, you wanted to give it.
Add another word
Yes.
that follows that pattern?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Because that's the whole thing, is that it's not traditional spelling where here are your words and let's memorize them by Friday. And then after Friday, we put them away, and in our writing, we can't spell them the next week. I mean, that's just the way it is. Here, we're really getting deeper into the word analysis part. They're going to see so many different words that fit that pattern. So they're starting to see those different things in words. So if you want to do that, you could. Let's just go, yeah. Okay? Good question. All right. Now, yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify all of these word cards.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I understand. These are maybe more for when you're teaching at a small group, or,
We're going to go through those right now.
okay.
Now, the other materials in your bag is what my friend was referring to. So that's where we are now, okay? Yes and no to your question, okay? This is it. The instruction is for the whole group, okay? The whole group. But when it's time to do our sorts, they're not doing those independently. Now, if you wanted them to, or you had to, for whatever reason with a student, fine. But these are made for where they could work together to sort the words. I always like to have about 3 kids together in a group. And when I teach this in classrooms, oh my goodness, talk about the dialogue between the students, talk about the engagement and understanding. It is really chill bump making, so to speak, when you walk around and you see that what the kids are doing and saying. That doesn't belong there. Some of you have been doing words their way, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. In that, well, no, it doesn't go there, because so you really get into this good discussion, good dialogue. What you have are 6 copies of each, okay? So this would be enough for like 6 groups. Now, if you wanted pairs, for them to work in pairs, or if you wanted them to work, you have so many kids in your room, and you need more of these other than just 6, bless you, more than 6, then this is where you have the resource to make another set of words. So that's what that is for. Now, the neat thing about the 6 copies, the first thing you see are your category headings. So you'll have 6 sets of those. And look how easy they are. They have perforated edges, so I'm just folding them on the side. Here they are here. Fold them this way, pull them apart. You see how easy those are? I like them. And this one's mine, by the way. It doesn't belong to you. I brought it. But anyway, this is where you have 6 sets. So you have 6 sets of everything. So yes, they would work the sorts in small groups. We still have the same instruction. Everybody has the same words. Everything is the same, but we work in small groups to do the sorting so that we can work together. And even with Common Core standards, they are wanting, this lends itself very well to the small group, peer collaboration and dialogue and so forth. So that's what you have. Now, I have no idea how many kids you have, Some places I go in the country, 18, so nice for them. Other parts of the country and districts, we might have 30 kids in there, you know. So we don't know. But you have at least 6. You can put about 3 or whatever, and whatever other extra sets you need, you can make them for the Black Line Master. It's not a big deal. Now, the management is something I do want us to talk about in a few minutes. But after you look at your category headings, then look at your next 6 sheets. You should see that that's one of your words. Okay? And you have another. So you have about 3 different ones. So you can see the number of words that these students are exposed to every week. Now, teachers, this is not to necessarily write the definition of every word in here. That's not the point. And those of you that have been doing words their way know that we're exposing, we're looking, we're seeing what features they have alike, or what patterns are going on, or the meanings behind. So it's not that you have, I don't know, 40, 60, however many words that you have that week. It's not that they have to do every one of them. You do have your sheets that you're doing for your vocabulary work that are in the Black Line Master and in your lesson plan, so you know specifically what those words are that you can bring out. But I guarantee you, some of your kids are going to want to know, well, what does that word mean? I have a teacher in Washington State in the area of Seattle, and he keeps a little app on his phone with definitions, and I'll say, well, what does that one mean? You know, because it sounds interesting, and he'll quickly just, I don't know, so he'll put it in, you know, and he does it immediately. But that's something that's been really cool for them, you know. But what you could also do is, well, if there are certain words that you really want to know that if you don't, well, hey, why don't you find out for us? And then tomorrow when we're looking at it together, why don't you share that with the class? Because that's an interesting word. So you can handle that however you want to, but you can see in your teacher's guide and Black Line Master the specific vocabulary words they're going to be working with, but they're going to see many, many, many words. Okay? All right, now let's talk about important stuff, teachers. When you start taking all these little pieces together, you're not going to want to stick them back in the bag like that. So, just letting you know to think about how you want to do that. With the category cards, I've done several things. I've used paper clips, just to paper clip each little stack thing together. I've used little cheap envelopes, to stick those in there and inside the bag because it can all go right back in there. Some people even go as far as, Ziploc bags or that sort. They can get, kind of pricey. I found that paper clips work really well, and you might just want to stick those in an envelope or something, those little set. But with your numbers, you have 3 different sorts that you're doing, and then you have 6 sets of those. Then you're going to want to make sure that, maybe I should rubber band those together. So you just pull out the one you're doing and hand it out and go with it. And after you do it this year, after you pull them apart, but you see how difficult it is to pull those apart. Once you do that and put them in there, you're going to have them, next year, the following year, and so forth. Okay? But think about that management piece, because I know that's a small thing, but as teachers, we know that's a big thing. We just need to be thinking about how we want to do it. Okay? Any questions about what we've talked about so far? No? We're good? All right. Well, I'm going to put these apart. How about yes? It needs to be the same. She had a really good question for those of you that did not hear her. She was talking about, can the kids be doing different sorts on the same day? And the answer would be no, because you have specific sorts for doing that particular day and what you're focusing on and the explicit instruction that you have for that day. Now, there are a couple of days where you may have 2 sorts that you're doing that day, and they're 2 different ones. But you still, that's that explicit instruction and then kids discovering, through sorting and that kind of thing. So you would need to follow that lesson all the way through. You are going to be covering many different types of sorts. I'm even going to show you some in just a minute. And then after we go through that, you're going to have an opportunity to actually look at a unit, a week of instruction, and then you're also going to have the opportunity to do the sorts in that particular week of instruction. So when you walk out of here today, you're going to know what it looks like, you know? And each week is going to be structured just like this one. The sort might be a little bit different, but not much, okay? All right, any other questions? That was a very good question. Okay, so we looked at our teacher's guides, we looked at our anchor chart, our black line masters, we saw our overview book, and we have our word sorts. Okay, just letting you know what the instruction focuses on, okay? You're going to be explicitly teaching new and challenging advanced word study elements. And I think you're going to find when you have some time to just dive into this in a little bit, you're going to see that it is challenging. And I think some of you are probably already thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know if my kids can do it. You know, because you do have kids all over the board. The thing that we have to remember is, though, that everybody has to receive core instruction. You know, everybody has to have it. It just means, though, for those particular kids, we have to work with them and try to fill that gap in at a different time, okay? All right, so we're also promoting automaticity. We're looking at word analysis strategies. Also, just fostering wordplay and just the awareness of words to build that vocabulary, okay? And to support and motivate. You know, what do kids like to do? They like to be active, right? I've tried to keep you active this morning, have I not? I've worked you. But being engaged and having a part of that makes it fun. It does motivate, and so your kids are really going to enjoy that. And those of you that have been doing words their way and with the sorting, you know that. This is what I want you to do now. I'm going to go ahead and give you a teacher's guide. Kind of put yours aside for the moment. How about that? Put your unit aside for the moment, because we're all going to be looking at the same one. Now, if you don't want to put it away, you don't have to, because if you want to refer to it while you're doing this, you can. Just to see the difference within the lesson I'm giving you and one that you might have in front of you. You can kind of compare them. You know, how are they the same? How are they different? You're going to find some consistent structures. Okay, you're going to be looking at a lesson that I'm going to give you. And you're going to be looking for consistent structures throughout. Any consistent structures throughout, all right? If you do it day by day, like you'll be looking at the whole thing, but then you'd like to say, well, are the structures consistent weekly? You could grab your teacher's guide that you're looking at right now. Oh, yes, that's consistent here or different here, so you might want to have that handy. Also want you to look for where the assessment tool is, or assessment tools. And then also, how does the cycle change from day to day? Okay, those are the 3 things that you're going to be doing. I'm going to give you a lesson, and I want you to use this unit for this product investigation. However, please refer to your teacher guide that you pulled out if you want to, just to see if there are similarities and differences, so that you feel good when you leave that, hey, I've seen this unit, hey, I can do this. It's consistent, or the structures are the same, very little change or whatever, okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and get these passed out. Everybody should get one. My friend Mary. Thank you, I appreciate it. See if I can count. Literacy's my specialty, not math. Specialty, not math. I think this is what we'll do, not.
Well, can you imagine? Well, now that I've done this, you get on it. Well, good. That's good to know. Oh, well, good. God, no, that's why they do it, right, huh?